Hey there, team. What I want to talk about today is how do you make things happen fast when you're trying to 10x your company, your business, or whatever you're trying to build, create, or transform. Now, one of the things I actually got a message yesterday, sent out my offer, which is an intensive transformation where I work with someone for 6 weeks and help them transform. And actually, as I was sharing that offer, sharing what I was doing, I had complete conviction. I was like, complete conviction that someone's business can transform in 6 weeks. And I had to check in with myself. And I think this is something that's really important we do as people that make promises on the internet is checking it. Can I really fulfill on that promise? Can I really help somebody go 10x, not 10x? I'm not actually promising you'll 10x in 6 weeks, but can I help someone put in the foundations to help them go 10x in such a short amount of time? And I actually had to journal on this morning. And I really thought about this a lot. And I looked at every time that I had 10x'd in my career, like when I had a true 10x transformation in my career. And what I want to share with you in this session is how I did this. And you can take some of the inspiration, some of the levers that I used. And also, full transparency. If this is something that you're trying to do, feel free to reach out to me personally, because I'm looking to partner with 3 people to do this in the next 6 weeks. I believe it's, more than believe it's possible. I've seen it with many clients before, but I'm focusing on just 6 weeks over the next 7 days. I'm bringing people on, and in 6 weeks later, they will have 10x or transformed or created what I would call a shift. And this is why the program's called The Big Shift. So how do you create a big shift? Let's dive in. Well, my first big shift was when I started my boot camp. I had a Fast Way to Fitness started as a boot camp, and it then transformed into one of the biggest body transformation gyms in Wales. And we started just from a schoolyard, and I was a lecturer at the time. I was doing I was 8 till 4 as a lecturer, and then either side I was doing some personal training. I was every single day, Monday through Friday, 6 in the morning till 7, 8 at night. So what happened was, when I opened my boot camp, I went from that, say, 13 hours a day of work, literally 30 days later, I'd made a commitment to start my boot camp, and I was working 1 hour, 3 days a week in the morning, plus the marketing time, 2 to 3 hours a day. So 3 to 4 hours per day. So I went from 13 hours of work that wasn't getting me towards owning my own fitness facility, transforming bodies, doing what I loved. I was lecturing in all sorts, but at the same time, I really transformed when I made that 30-day commitment. And here's what happened. I went to a course. I met a guy called Paul Mort. Paul was my first ever mentor. And he said, go and quit your job. There's a bit more to it than that, but he said, go and hand your notice in. You've got 30 days, make it happen. And in 30 days, I had to launch and build my boot camp. And I did it. I did it because I backed myself. I took massive action. I handed my notice in on the Monday. My hands were quivering. And I remember I've got 30 days to do this coming out of my head. And this is what happened. On the first boot camp, we had 30 people sign up, which turned into 60 people on the second boot camp. So within 60 days, I went from having no clients, no boot camp, to having 60 people show up at the schoolyard. That allowed me to quit my full-time job and spend most of the morning reading in Costa Coffee. So not only did I get a massive shift in my time freedom, I went from 13, 14-hour days, really, really burning candle both ends, trying to make sure I could build a personal training business and then succeed as a lecturer or as a teacher. But then also, I went to reading about fitness, nutrition, transformation for like 3-4 hours a day, every day, and drinking a shitload of coffee. And so I had so much time, and I did so many mentorships and internships with the money that I was making from that first shift. So let's look at the levers here, because what really happened was I just allowed myself so much more time by having an effective way to pursue the thing that I was always interested in, which was personal transformation. And so the way that the business was set up was that I would spend 1 hour 3 times a week with a load of clients on a schoolyard. And in between, I would give them advice and support and everything for them to stick to a diet plan. At the time, I was using a diet plan. It was a very much, old ways. I learned loads since then. We got great results. We got an incredible results. I actually got better results with the boot camp than I did with my personal training clients at that time, because it was more intensive. There was a biggish urgency for them to get a result, and we got incredible results. So that's one of the first things. The big shift happened because I was willing to back myself. And I think this is what happens when you come to an inflection point, a 10x or an impossible goal. There has to be a dramatic shift in your calendar. I'm going through this personally at the moment. One of the shifts that I've got in my life is that I have to drastically shift my calendar to look and to create my next vision. And it's so different to what I'm doing now. There's more time that's going to need to be allocated, but that's often what needs to happen. So time is a big, big lever that you use, and you obviously change as you're going 10x. The second one was when I started a men's group. So I started a men's group in the midst of the pandemic, because the thing I noticed was guys who were 30 plus, who had done maybe 6 figures in business, they built a business, they were the block. They were perhaps disconnected. They weren't clear on their goals. Their family life wasn't as they wanted it to be, and they needed to be around other men. So I created a group and said, "Hey, listen, let's collectively go for an impossible goal." So what we'll do is we'll each set our goal, and then you can join me and Yassine, and we worked on this together for the first year. We said, right, we're going to help 10 guys do this for 1 year and see what happens. And this was an irresistible offer. You got to work with me and Yassine. Yassine is an incredible transformation coach. His family business has done incredibly well, and he just was so. It was such an amazing offer to work with the two of us together, because he was like the sage and I was the coach. And what happened was that these guys massively transformed. Their lives transformed, their income transformed, they transformed, because we gave them a really, really great offer to join. We gave them loads of support. We had a session every single day. They could come on a session every single day at 12 o'clock if they wanted to. It was an irresistible offer. What building that business allowed me to do, it allowed me to see a life outside of a bricks and mortar business, because Fast Way to Fitness was such a bricks and mortar business where I'd go in the morning at 6 a.m. I'd leave at 6 p.m. It's quite funny talking about this in line with what happened with the boot camp. The boot camp gave me time and freedom. The gym actually was the exact opposite of that. I would go in the morning, leave in the evening. I was a very, very hands-on leader. I was in the gym all the time. And I kind of really saw myself stuck in this gym. Everything I was doing was in this gym. Even when I started the Awaken Man, it was I did all my sessions from the gym. And what happened was the business allowed me to see a way to do business which wasn't in the gym. And it sounds crazy, but in a bricks and mortar place of work, I was like, actually, hang on a sec, I could do this from anywhere in the world. And we also worked out that, well, if I move to Dubai, the business is going to be way more tax efficient, and there was so many opportunities in Dubai. People weren't doing what we were doing in Dubai effectively, so moved to Dubai. And what that big shift allowed me to do was transform my life. Again, shift in the business helped me create a shift in my life. But I can't remember what happened first. Was it, I think it was myself and Poppy saying, "Yeah, do you know what? We'd love to live in Dubai." And then the thought of, actually, well, if I did this in the business, that would allow me to fulfill that transformation in my life. But that big shift happened very, very quickly. Even when we started Awaken Man, we had 30 days to bring on 10 clients. So we had to have an irresistible offer to get people in to make it work. So I think we signed 8 clients in 30 days. Within the 5th week, the people that were on the fence said yes. And then on the 6th week we started, we went from not having a business. There was no revenue stream for Awaken Man, even though it'd been a group for a couple of years. And then we had the audience. So the audience was there, no smoke and mirrors. There was an audience of 200 men that you've seen have been writing to for a while. And then all of a sudden we came up with this offer and people jumped at the opportunity. And it was a really, really great shift. It was a huge shift. It was a big shift. But what was it that did it? It was, first of all, irresistible offer. Second of all, it was the right time for that offer as well. So would that same offer work now? Not sure. Maybe not. But it was during, I think it was during the pandemic. So that's what created that big shift. Right time, right offer, right people, right place. And that's what we're looking for. So when you're trying to create these shifts, you've got to sometimes step back and think, well, actually, what am I going to use as my marketing tool, as my sales tool? What's my offer? What's the thing I'm optimizing for? Because I remember when I started the bootcamp, Facebook events were huge. Like, you'd literally put a Facebook event on and people would show up. Like, a Facebook event meant people would show up. I put a Facebook event on to launch my bootcamp, and I thought that 25 people, or I thought 10 people were going to come, my mum being one of them. And I think it was like 60 to 70 people showed up in this seminar room. And I had never done a seminar before. I'd never done a workshop. I was scared of public speaking. So imagine this. I'm standing there, absolutely terrified of public speaking. And then all of a sudden, I'm delivering to 60, 70 people everything I know about health, transformation, and training. And obviously, I've been in that world a long time. I had multiple degrees and that sort of stuff. And I knew my stuff, but sharing that in front of 60 people and then making them an offer to come and join the bootcamp, that's what launched it. And it worked at that time. Would it work again now? Maybe. Is it the right thing? Perhaps not. So that's what we got to always look at when we're trying to create this big shift, is like, what's the right time, right offer, right marketplace, the right tool for the job. And this is what happened last year. So I exited the Awakened Man, and I wanted to create the 10X tribe. I wanted to create something that really reflected everything I was working on in that moment, which was helping people 10X. And in the first 6 months of the 10X tribe, I did my first 6 figures, and then I literally did that 6 figures again in 90 days at the start of 2025. What changed? I just focused on it. At that point in my career, I was like, I don't want to work as much with groups. I want to work one-on-one. So I created really intimate partnerships with people who had bigger businesses. And that's what helped me really, really exponentially grow that within the space of just over a year, just under a year now, just about a year. So what's happened there is that this final business has allowed me to really just travel and do the things that we wanted to with our family. Like, we're literally in May, we're going to spend a month in Thailand with the kids because we want to. That's like, it's given me so much time freedom. It's given me so much space to go and do what I want and look at other projects. So why am I sharing this with you? I think that one of the things that I've noticed every single time I've used principle-based transformation, when I've really looked at the science and the art of transformation, is that I've really gone to do the things that need to be done in the right order. I've set a really, really clear goal. Like, that is the first thing. Like, I remember even the boot camp, I had to replace my wage in the first 30 days. I think the same thing with the men's group, I had to replace my annual wage in the first 30 days. And then what that has allowed me to do, a clear goal of where I want to get, an impossible goal that forces me to transform. I couldn't have achieved that in my current state. Think back to the boot camp example. I didn't know how to do public speaking. I didn't know. I'd never been taught. I think I've done one public talk in front of like 10 students in university and really, really messed it up. Didn't do a good job at all. And in setting that goal of, all right, I'm going to start a boot camp. It's going to be 30 days. I'm going to do an event. I had to stand in front of a group of people. I couldn't have done that without that goal. That goal forced me to be able to go and do that. And it forged a reason to have to do that. And then as I grew the bootcamp for the next 2 to 3 years, I did a speaking event nearly every, I think it was like once every 2 to 3 months. So I did like multiple speaking events for months and months and months afterwards. And that helped me again transform and transform and transform. So the first thing we need is a frame. We need the impossible goal. And then once we've got the impossible goal, we then look at the mechanism. What's the pathway? What's the thing that we're going to focus on? We're going to really leverage, and that's your system. Now, the problem is that until we have the impossible goal, we can't create a system for it. So we have to start with the goal. And I think this is what is really surprising for me when I talk to so many entrepreneurs, business owners, people that are looking to transform and grow their business, is they actually haven't got an impossible goal. They've got a stretch goal, or even just a default goal. I just want to do 10% better by the end of the year. But what they end up doing is optimizing things that don't even need to be there. They don't do anything different, so they don't get any results that are different. They don't shift. So what happens is, the second thing we need to do is get your system right. And then the final thing is we need to raise the floor. We need to raise the standards. Give you an example for this was, I'm using the Bootcamp example when I started that because it's a really easy concept to get my head around, and yours, which was, I was charging, I think it's £500 a month for personal training at the time. Actually, even just having signed up the first tranche and the second tranche of paying clients, I was like, hang on a second. If I just divide I think it was like 6,000 by like 12, which was the number of sessions I was doing, I was already getting my monthly rates for personal training in 1 hour of delivering to the bootcamp. It was that efficient. So actually what I did is I just kind of said, well, I don't need like 10 personal training clients anymore. I only need 1 or 2 because I really enjoyed doing it. I learned a lot from it. I enjoyed the relationships. So my floor, so instead of having 10 personal training clients, I immediately just reduced that to 2, and it gave me so much more time, bandwidth, energy back in the day to work on the business. And I think that's what happens with so many businesses as well. They don't raise the floor because they worry that by saying no to so many people, they're not going to be able to maintain their revenue, grow. They're saying no to opportunities. So what happens is, as soon as you raise that floor, you immediately have more time, energy, and bandwidth to optimize those first 2 things. And that's the biggest transformations I see. And that's a big shift. Now, does that need to take 12 weeks, 12 months? Absolutely not. I actually think it's less ethical to sell somebody the idea of doing this over 12 months, 2 to 3 years. Yes, this is probably what a full 10x would look like for a larger company, but for a medium or small to medium sized enterprise, you can do so much in 90 days. You can do even more in the first 42 days. Now, here's the thing I'm thinking is that the more action you can take on the simple things at the start, the easier it's going to be as you grow. And that's what I've noticed, that when I've used principle-based transformation, science-backed transformational principles, behavior change, goal-setting principles, that are not just working for 1 or 2 people, that are working on the whole, that are proven to work for people, that you're going to get way better transformation. And that's what I've noticed. It was the same in a physiological transformation as well. I noticed that when we went from diet plans and prescribed food logs that people would follow, like meal plans, when we did that, which wasn't ethical, looking back, it wasn't. I didn't know as much as I do now in the first year of body transformation. But the following, 14 years or whatever of helping people transform, we did behavior change, and we taught people about calories and proteins and fats, carbs, fibers. We educated people. And when they applied those principles, they got really fast results. Like, we saw people lose incredible amounts of weight and keep it off because they learned the principles. And that was the difference. And I think it's exactly the same in business. It is exactly the same, that when you apply principle-based, science-backed methods to transform your business, you get fast results. And that's my belief. Not only because I've done it myself, it's because I've seen it happen for clients as well. So one of the programs that I've launched on numerous occasions over the years is a 90-day impossible goal transformation. It's where somebody comes and does something what they deem impossible in 12 weeks. And without fail, the people that have got the best results, the people where it's actually worked for them, where they've, where it's actually seen a proper 10x or a proper transformation in terms of the impossible happening, it's when they've had those three things in place: a really clear goal, a really clear method to scale, which is like a system or a strategy that can scale. And the final thing is they've let go of the things that don't serve them. And all those three things are science backed. And I've seen them work time and time again. So if you're looking for a rapid transformation, if you're looking for fast transformation, you need those things in place. I've experienced it time and time again in my own life, and I've seen it happen in small to medium-sized businesses. Hopefully this has helped you, because honestly, having that experience being questioned around is it possible for someone to do that, was really helpful for me, because I actually thought to myself, is this the truth? Can you really experience it as fast as I'm promising? And my answer is yes. Thank you so much for watching the stream, listening to the podcast. If you've enjoyed it, give it a like, and feel free to comment if anything in this has really resonated with you. Take care.